It is the least reassuring piece of equipment than you can imagine.
But if it goes wrong, right, the shame. And there's been a lot of shame this week, but if this one goes wrong, this is like it.
Then we have to do it all over again.
Oh my God.
Welcome to Cloud Realities Live, a conversation show exploring the practical and exciting alternate realities that can be unleashed through cloud-driven transformation. I'm Dave Chapman.
I'm Sjoukje Zaal.
And I'm Rob Kernahan.
And we are back in Vegas for AWS's reInvent 2023. I know. It doesn't feel like a year, does it?
No, it does not. It's very familiar. You come back and you go, oh, I'm back.
It literally feels like I have never been away. It's like I don't know whether my life away from Vegas was like a dream. Is it still 2020? It's still 2022.
Yeah. It's been a year, Dave. A year. Podcast is now a year and 2 weeks old. So there you go.
It is indeed.
And we're back.
Its birthday. We had our birthday, didn't we?
We had our birthday. Yeah, very exciting.
Yeah, like this time last year, we were literally just booting the thing up.
It was all new and raw.
It was indeed.
A different experience.
And we've got nicer chairs this year.
Yeah, indeed.
Very happy with that. Anyway, joining us on today's call is
it's a podcast, Dave. Call. Just small point. This is a podcast.
Joining us today to talk to us about the trends and what's going on, and specifically from his particular position in AWS is Rohan Karmarkar. He's the Director GSI of Solutions Architecture. Rohan, good to see you. Just want to say a quick hello and introduce yourself a bit better than I did.
No, absolutely. Firstly, happy to be here. My name is Rohan Karmarkar. I lead the solution architecture team for our global SI partners, our global system integrators, where we manage, strategic 15 largest global SIs from a partnership perspective and do joint go-to-market effort with them. Been in this role and with AWS for over 8.5 years, and I'm based out of Seattle.
So what's the day job like? You working with the architecture teams in GSIs? You working with leadership teams? What's the...
working with obviously the CTOs and the technical leads at the GSIs and with the customers as well. And also working very closely with the AWS engineering teams and the services teams, and bringing the best technologies for our GSI partners to use and build, applications for their customers.
Cool, man. So back in reInvent?
Back in reInvent.
This must be your 8th or something like that? Well, how many have you been to?
So, interestingly, I was the first 2 I attended as a partner, and then 8 as an employee. So This is my 10th reInvent.
Wow.
And there's only been 11.
12. This is the 12th one. Yeah.
You get some sort of pin?
Medal of Honor. No. Yeah. The badges.
Yeah.
Real pro tip from us this year, though. We've gone Airbnb instead of one of the strip hotels.
Nice.
So it's a lot less money to start with, but actually it's just a much more comfortable situation. You can get out of the frenzy for a little bit. But one of the harder things there is to do with an Airbnb, Rohan?
What's that? Finding
it, Rob.
Oh, no.
So Rob is the most prepared traveller that you've ever come across. He for many weeks at this point, he's had his ESTA printed out and the address of our Airbnb printed out and in a plastic folder, right?
Something like that, Dave. Maybe.
So what happened when you landed, Rob?
It turns out the address was different to the one I thought we were going to. However, Dave has omitted quite a lot of context from that story that completely exonerates me in this situation of having the wrong address. And I'm just looking straight at our producer, Marcel, across the floor, who's currently chuckling to himself about the situation. So I'm going to say mitigating circumstances here, David.
I'm going to say exonerate is a strong word, Robert.
You were a bit in panic mode, right?
Well, I found out at 33,000 feet on the plane over the address was different.
That's the
mild panic.
That's the miracle of Wi-Fi in the air, isn't it?
Yeah, no, it's right. Great converged technology working to bring panic in the air. Yeah.
All right, then look onto the main event. So Rohan, give us a view. So we are recording this just after the main keynote. So there was the introductory keynote last night. Who was the introductory
DeSantis.
keynote? DeSantis in the introductory keynote. And then this morning it was
Adam Skalewski.
And there's been a number of kind of interesting announcements and actually a tone being set, I think, for reInvent this year. Rohan, do you want to give us your take on, what have we heard so far, and what are you seeing as the big themes that are emerging?
Yeah, definitely. I think, there've been already 30 plus announcements that have happened in the last two keynotes.
I mean, within 30 announcements in about 12 hours.
Yeah, it's about 12
including
hours.
sleeping time.
Yes, including sleeping time. So, obviously they varied across different technology areas, right from, introducing new chipsets and new, instance types to all the way, announcing Amazon Q, which is the generative AI based, chatbot assistant, right? So, and then there are, other applications like Zero ATL and, a couple of announcements on mainframe modernization to help customers modernization. So it's a variety of like, things that are happened in the last 2 days, and we're just getting started. We have like 3 more keynotes.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, the one that struck us from DeSantis yesterday was actually his focus on sort of very sort of practical cloud modernization and a route through modernization to get to increased efficiency. And I think he was talking particularly about leverage of PaaS services and data services in particular. So from your day job perspective, like, leading solution architecture, working with GSIs, how do you see that changing the conversation with, kind of customers? And the reason I ask that is because obviously every organization that wants to do a cloud journey ideally would like to have modernized on the way there, but actually sometimes just the scale of what they're trying to do gets in the way. Sometimes the business cases don't quite work. Give us your take on that.
No, definitely. I think, back around 7-8 years back, when a lot of large enterprises started moving to cloud, initially, their hypothesis was, hey, we need to get into the cloud, right? Like build that cloud muscle, how to operate, how to build applications and so on. And the easiest step back then was just doing lift and shift, right? Move your applications to cloud and then go from there and then modernize. I think in the last, 12 months or 18 months, there's been a lot more focus on, modernization because when you build apps for the cloud, then it really drives down the cost. It brings in the innovation and the agility that cloud brings. So obviously, given the macroeconomic situations, the customers are like looking at a lot more of modernization aspects, right? And over the last few years, they've built that cloud muscle now, so they can take the next step of like modernizing and really being cloud native. So we're seeing a lot of that as well, right? And then there are some customers who are like just getting started as well. So they are now thinking, hey, maybe we should just when we go in, we should go in a modernized state rather than doing lift and shift and then modernization. So you'll see different patterns from different customers, right? And, it's always kind of interesting where it always starts with a cost discussion. Hey, we will reduce our cost, but it always changes quickly to agility, bringing more enhanced developer experience.
I mean, you
and
see
innovation.
a lot of, you see a lot of conversation at the moment about like migration to cloud having not actually delivered what it was promised to deliver, not necessarily just in cost but also in things like speed and things like that. But actually when you scratch below the surface of that argument, it is predominantly because the transformation hasn't actually occurred. They may well be rehosting their components somewhere else, but actually if they haven't transformed around that, both at the tech level and the organization level, you don't really get some of the big upsides, do you?
Definitely, right? So the more native you are in there, like we call it going higher the stack, right? In the cloud parlance. So the more you do that, the more efficiencies, the more benefit, the more innovation, the more cost benefits you can derive from it. So
I think the prize is massive though if you get it right. Yeah. So there's never a compromise. It's more efficient, more sustainable compute. You get change adaptability out your architecture, and you get a happier workforce because they're using modern tech. It's like the whole gamut's there, and there's enough stories out there that the proof points are in. But there's still this. I feel like there's still this inertia with some organisations where they can't quite get over the let's go transform our architecture for the benefit of of all, because there was some amazing stats that came out of the keynote last night around an 80% compute efficiency if you use the platform database and things like this. And it's like, that's a massive cost saving if you choose to take that step to convert. So
Yeah, definitely. And if you look at if you look at customers who, like, some customers are born in the cloud customers, right?
Yeah.
They started their businesses when cloud was around, so they built for the cloud, right? So there you'll see them, like,
They've got the happiness. They've got the architecture happiness.
Exactly,
Yeah,
exactly. And then the customers who are now transforming themselves to be more cloud native. That journey is something that they need to really plan it out, and there needs to be a top-down commitment for that journey as well, right? Because it will take time, and it will get you the results, but you'll have to see through.
It's hard, isn't it? It's like you can't underestimate the pain that can go in a journey like that, but the results and the happiness at the end are huge. So
Yeah, it seems to me that it's like really important to get the business casing of it right. Yeah. Either at the outset of the journey, or it might be that you've phased it, so at some point you'll hit something that looks more like a modernization case than it does like a pure kind of rehosting case or a cost saving case. But useful, though, I think, of some of the metrics that were described by DeSantis in terms of the level of saving applied. Are there, like, that set of metrics, which were, I read that as being clearly trying to signpost you can business case in a stronger way. Is that like a new set of metrics as a result of some new technology, or are we just talking about that now because there's more data being gathered on what the upsides of modernization actually are?
Yeah, I think there's a lot more, customers who've gone through that journey, right?
Yeah.
So that data is available now. Another reference today, in the keynote was from the Pfizer team, who was saying, like, they're going to see potential savings of up to like a couple of billions of dollars, right? Using Bedrock and generative AI technology. So those are the kind of anecdotes and examples that we have today that we didn't have probably a few years back.
Yeah. And have you got a good example or two that come to mind that you could share with us?
The Pfizer example I was just talking about, that's a strong example as well, right? And then, there are a few other examples that come to mind where customers have really reduced their infrastructure footprint by being cloud native, right? Like where they were running hundreds of VMs, have gone serverless. The operation costs have reduced, their development, deployment agility has increased a lot, right? So you'll see a lot of those references coming up from customers like who've done.
And it's always the pounds, shillings, and pence at the end. The savings with case studies like that are mighty. So that's for the motivator of you can actually save a lot of dough. And use that to transform more. A positive feedback loop helps a lot as well, doesn't it?
Yeah, and I think the other thing that I think that's always strikes me from case studies that have actually delivered the saving as well is that is make sure you actually land the saving that you're going for.
But what I love about that case study is it's based with a company that's got heritage, has traditional architecture patterns and things like that. And they've managed to achieve the outcome. So it's not the born in the cloud story, but it's like an organization that's managed to transform itself very, very successfully. Yeah.
Well, let's move on to the other big news of this morning in Andy's keynote, which was AWS Q and Amazon Q. First of all, tell us a little bit about what Q actually is for anyone who's not seen the news on it yet.
Yeah, definitely. I think so. Amazon Q is think of it as a assistant, right? That's built on generative AI, which is available in different places. It's available in the console. It's available in the CLI and documentation, and also in services like Amazon Connect, where you can use you can use natural language to get questions answered on your architectures, on how you would build certain things, right, when you're using AWS platform. Like today, the way you do that is you have to go through a bunch of forums and search queries, right, and maybe talk to a lot of people to get those answers, right? So that this is something now which will be available to you. You can talk about, hey, I need to scale this application, scale up, scale down. How do I do it? Or what would be the kind of like security I need to build for these kind of compliances, like, and so on, right? So these kind of questions you can ask. Now, the interesting thing is how this entire model is being built on. Is built on based on like last 17 years of data that we internally within the AWS have had, right? Through solution architects and support teams and all those things, we've collected this data and used that data to train this model, right? To make it more more kind of user friendly and enhance the experience of the people, the developers and the builders using this.
I think what I really like about it is it's moving up the intellectual property stack with the higher level requirements associated with I'm seeking an answer, and it's a complicated answer. So it's a good example of ever increasing complexity and capability from these type of prompts.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
right.
it's like
and so what's the output that it gives you? Is it like is it documentation at the moment, which is like here's how we suggest you go about doing it, or is it actually building anything for you? And if it's not, do you see that as like a natural next step?
So it's not just documentation, right? It's generative AI. So it's generating the content for you based on your questions, right? And it'll try to answer the question using some of the the documentation data and other things, right?
Right.
So it'll be a very conversational chatbot type experience where you'll get a response in a natural language again as to what.
And how context aware is it for the solution that you're trying to build? So will it take like a really complex natural language question, like I'm literally going to make this up off the top of my head, like we have a situation where we're trying to scale a solution for a particular line of business application. That line of business application has got like these sort of usage patterns attached to it. It has been migrated over at the moment. It's only been refactored. So like, will it take a series of sort of complex queries like that?
It will. Right, it will take you can pass a lot of context and get more and more like refined responses. So you can really prompt it to get to where you want to go to.
You know what's funny about this is the emerging engineering skill, which is prompt engineer, which is becoming more and more of a reality of how to use the system best to get the right results out of it. So it is a skill of the future that has, a year ago, if you went to anybody prompt engineer, they go, "You are." And now you go, "Oh yeah, no, they're really important now."
No, absolutely.
It's like a job that appeared overnight.
Yeah, it literally is. and it's one that like is going to be millions of people doing it, let's face it, both professionally and personally.
It's going to be the next big thing, I think. And we talk about organizational shapes changing off the back of AI generally in the future. And this is a good example of a rebalancing of skill sets within an organization.
Yeah, very much so. Yeah, very much so.
So when is Q going to be available?
It is available.
It is available already?
Launched today.
Great.
Available on the console and like the CLI and the documentation connect and a few other. I think it's also available on the mobile app as well.
What I like is as you're configuring your architecture, maybe it'll be more advanced to say, I wouldn't do that if I were you. I don't think that configuration is what you really want to do now.
You mean it'd be like judgmental?
Yeah, you go, "You're not a very good architect, are you?"
I was going to say, that's much like any other architect that I've ever met.
That's not very
Just judging.
cost-effective.
Judging.
Just like, it raises a virtual eyebrow at you and rolls its eyes.
If you want to be a good architect, you need to be very strongly opinionated.
Yeah.
And then not listen to the response.
I work constantly with two of them, mate. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Easy.
But like, talking of architecture and stretching a little bit outside of the sort of the technical element of it, and it'd be interesting. I don't know whether Q is doing this at the moment, but just sort of generally when you think about Rob's point about things like prompt engineering, things like the advantages that AI is going to give you, and Q being a very fast example of that is going to take a lot of toil out of the work that needs to be done. So what are you seeing at the moment in terms of how it's impacting organizations? And I asked that question from a point of view of saying it clearly is already, but I'm not sure how many organizations are doing full transformations yet. I absolutely fully expect by this time next year, probably still be in Vegas, and we'll be seeing organizations that are changing quite materially. Have you started to think about that yet, Rohan? Where's your head at on that?
Yeah, no, that's a very good question, right? Like, and I think Adam said this a few months ago, saying that we are 3 steps into a marathon when it comes to generative AI, right? So still pretty early days. But the way we think about it is that it's going to be it's going to change the experience of the entire aspect of application development, application management, security, a lot of these things, right? So let's take an example of a developer experience today, right? Like with tools like Code Whisperer, they can generate the code, right? And to generate the code, again, you need to have the right prompts and things. And then those tools are like getting better, right? We also announced a bunch of things around support for SDKs and cloud formation generation, and other kind of third party code generation snippets as well, right? So as a developer now, you need to use these tools to be more productive or to be more efficient at your job, right? Same with applications. Every part of the application now will be infused with generative AI, right? They'll like different parts of it. When you do security, you'll see some of that. Operations also will have like a lot of generative AI infused in it, right? Like for example, for AWS config now, we also launched something where you can query AWS config in a natural language, saying, hey, tell me which of the S3 buckets are open to public, right? So these kind of, like prompts you can do to even get better at identifying your risk and mitigating the risk and so on. So all parts of the building blocks of an application, as well as the individuals who are working on it, will have some infusion of this technology, right? And you're right. In a year from now, you'll see a lot more of that.
I think that's absolutely true.
Yeah.
And it feels like we're getting to we're finally getting to computers that can work like the computer on the Starship Enterprise, aren't we?
Yeah, you just talk to it. Although I did actually think, I just thought to myself there, what if developers didn't tell the world about Gen AI and then hid it away? And then they just used it and then had a big house party and nobody ever knew anything about it.
House party?
Yeah. They just talk to the computer and off they go. Yeah. And we're all none the wiser. Yeah, just think about that. They've missed out there, haven't they?
They probably didn't think of that, Rob. So keen they were to bring Gen AI to the world.
Yeah, they didn't think about, if we don't tell anyone, just think how we can get away not doing anything for the rest of our lives.
On that note, Shalk, before we get on to the remainder of the things that have been announced over the course of the first 12 hours or so of reInvent, this is your first one, right?
This is my first one, yeah.
First impressions?
Highly impressed. Yeah. Huge conference, good vibe. Yeah, I'm highly impressed. Yeah.
What's your particular big? Well, that's interesting. That's different to the other ones I've been to.
Yeah, I think what is really different is the amount of people, right? The conference just started, so about the content I cannot judge about at this moment, but the amount of people and the vibe that we have here in Las Vegas, that's really terrific. Yeah.
Cool. Brilliant. Well, we might come back to your observations as we go through the week. But tell us, like we talked about the big stuff from DeSantis last night, which is focusing on using PaaS solutions, using modernization to both drive productivity but also kind of take costs out. We've talked about Amazon Q, the big thing from this morning. What else?
Yeah, I think then the major announcement that stick to me was around quantum computing and more about error connection improvement. So a question about that. What do you see for quantum computing in the future? Do you see that it's going to be available for customers soon, or does it take a lot of time?
I think some of it, again, it's one of those disruptive technologies, right? Like which will really change the way we look at compute and overall application performance and what we can do with them, right? But again, it's pretty early days there. So today, customers can use it for certain use cases. The technology is still I would say in the incubation phase, right? And it's been incubated. We do have some offerings around that as well, and it's an area which we are all keeping a very close eye on to see how things shape up, right? But that's the next big thing in my mind.
Yeah,
that's going to change
after Gen AI, quantum. Yeah.
Well, it seems to me that like we talked about both of those subjects relatively often on the show itself. And it seems to me that within the next 10-year period, you're going to have not only potential AGI starting to emerge, but like emerging at the same time as commercially available quantum. That's a world changer, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
There's that famous quote, I think it was, we always overestimate what the next 2 years are going to bring, but we always underestimate the next 10 years. And you just know that there's going to be a massive, quantum leap.
Hey?
Hey, see what I did there, Dave?
Were you leading all the way up to that joke from what you said?
I have been sat on that for weeks.
Cool. Thanks, Shalk.
Yeah.
We'll return to you at the end of each show to get the mop up of the rest of the trends and things like that. Good stuff. Brilliant. Well, look, Rohan, thanks so much for joining us today. It's been a real pleasure talking to you and getting your insights.
The pleasure's been mine. Thank you very much for having me.
But before you leave, we end every episode of the podcast by asking our guests what they're excited about doing next. And of course, because it's Vegas, we have to ask you about what you're excited about doing next in Vegas, and that could be, I've got a seat booked at one of Gordon Ramsay's 25 restaurants in Vegas, or it could be something you're excited about, a particular keynote or something that's going on in the show. So what are you excited about doing next in Vegas?
A couple of things, right? Obviously, there are, like I said, 3 more keynotes on the next 2 days. So very excited about what would get announced there. Looking forward to the keynote, looking forward to the partner keynote by Ruba Borno as well, which is tomorrow. And there's another tradition that we have as a team, right? Whenever we come to Vegas, like before we leave Vegas, we go have steaks at Capitol Grill right across the road. So I'm looking forward for that as well.
Nice. So, a couple of questions on that. That's really caught my interest. So, preferred cut of steak and preferred sauce to go with it.
That's a good one. I like the ribeyes, but I'm not a big sauce fan.
Not a Béarnaise man?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm a big Béarnaise
Yeah.
best sauce for steak. Cote de boeuf
Just
and Béarnaise
like-
sauce. Happy days.
Is that your preferred Côte de Boeuf?
Cote de boeuf,
For two?
which is basically ribeye on the
Is
bone.
that for two, Rob?
Occasionally, just for me. Yeah, I have been known to eat a whole Cote de boeuf on my own. So yeah.
Bit of a meat sweat after that, I would imagine.
You're very happy though afterwards.
Yeah. Shalk, your favourite cut of steak, and do you have a preferred sauce?
For me, it's filet mignon. I had that yesterday.
Classic.
Very good, without sauce.
Without sauce?
Yeah.
What's this lack of sauce? I don't.
It's much
Hey, I'm
healthier,
peppercorn all the
Rob.
way.
Much healthier.
Peppercorn all the way. But I do like a filet mignon. I'm right with you on that.
Yeah, I really love it. Yeah.
Brilliant. Thanks again, Rohan.
Thank you.
So a huge thanks to our guest this week, Rohan. Thank you so much for being on the show. Thanks also to our sound and editing wizards, Ben and Louis, our chef, driver, and producer, Marcel, and of course to all of our listeners. We're on LinkedIn and X, Dave Chapman, Rob Kernahan, and Sjoukje Zaal. Feel free to follow or connect with us, and please get in touch if you have any comments or ideas for the show. And of course, if you haven't already done that, rate and subscribe to our podcast. See you in another reality next time.